will need to follow my voice as it leads you into a relaxed state of meditation.
Welcome back to the Hobby Grow podcast. I'm your host, Ben Owens, hobby grower and ghostwriter for the cannabis industry. Each week, we'll dive into my network of growers, hash makers, breeders, and mentors around the world to give you insight into their journeys, as well as give you information you can use to grow better weed and make better hash at home. Hit subscribe, roll something up, and let's get into it. This episode, we are joined by Bronson from Cyclone Gardens, a longtime home grower and breeder whose cannabis journey stretches from early closet grows in Texas to creating standout hash genetics in Colorado. Bronson has spent years refining his craft through trial and error, old school forums like Overgrow, commercial nursery work, home breeding projects, and an obsession with finding unique terp profiles that stand out. I asked Bronson to join me today to talk about learning to grow on the Overgrow forums in the early 2000s, working in Colorado's early clone nursery scene, why he ultimately left commercial cannabis behind, his home breeding projects and hunting through his own genetics, creating standout strains like the Rum Runner, the realities of getting rated as a grower in Texas and in Colorado, as well as his advice to new growers looking to improve their craft. Hey man, how's it going?
What's going on, dude?
How is your evening treating you?
Oh, pretty good. Just getting settled in at home.
Nice. So thank you for joining me, and I'd love for you to just kind of share your story, maybe wherever you want to begin your story with cannabis. But if that was your first interaction with the plant as a grower or as a consumer, but, work us through where you started and, how that got you to where you are now as a home grower, as a hobbyist.
Yeah, that could be a long discussion, but I'll try to.
Oh, I love it. No.
I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter. So
give us all the deets.
Let's see. First experience with cannabis was like the end of 8th grade. We called it like 8th grade graduation, and we had a little party in a buddy's backyard, and a friend of ours brought like a blunt. He had a big brother and scored a blunt from him and brought it. It was like basically like a Swisher Sweet or something, rolled up, some swag, and I don't really remember feeling the effects that much, but just doing it was cool, because we were young, 14 or something like that, and passed it around until it was gone, and I just remember having a good time. I don't remember getting high, so to speak, or feeling the real effects of cannabis until a couple years later. I was probably a sophomore in high school. Smoked some weed with some friends, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so good. And we're like, let's go get some drinks and some snacks. And we went into a convenience store, and I walked past the candy, and I just like started laughing my ass off, and I couldn't control the tears that started flowing from my eyes and stuff. I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm just having like such a good time.
Just straight half-baked.
And I remember just thinking, wow, this shit works, and it makes you feel a lot, like really good. So, but it was high school. We were getting pretty terrible weed, like Mexican swag full of seeds and stuff. So I didn't really see good weed until I went to college.
Okay.
Like Sensimilla, seedless stuff, like with crystals, like
kind
trichromed out,
Yeah.
So, but I did my first actual attempt to grow weed was in high school, and I got some seeds from a bag of weed, and I put it in soil and watered it and put it out in the woods, and it grew. And so I had these little plants, and I was like, whoa, now what? And then it didn't take long for like wildlife, cows and stuff. I was on ranch land, so it all got destroyed pretty quickly. They knocked them over and ate them and everything else. And I didn't try growing again until.
Oh, I lost you there. Oh, I lost you. Not sure what's going on here.
And
so I lost you there. Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I heard you say I didn't start growing again until, and then that's when it dropped out.
Okay, so I didn't really start growing or have a successful grow until college.
Okay. So what changed? What did you were trying a little harder and not planting it next to the cows?
Yeah, I was using cannabis pretty regularly. I liked it. It was a social thing. I would sell it a little bit, and I was like, man, I just need to grow my own. And I really got inspired by some like random dude. I went to his place, friend of a friend, and he had this little plant on his back patio, and it was in a Folgers coffee mug there, or like a coffee can, and it had little buds on it, and I was just like, holy shit, it's beautiful. I was like, I need to do this. I have to do this. So like, it wasn't, but maybe a few months later, I started trying to do it myself again, and same thing, like kind of grown from bag seed. I was kind of tired of looking for weed and dealing with somewhat shady people, and I was like, I'm gonna grow my own. First couple times growing, it was so interesting, the different types of plants that come from bag seed. Like, and this was mostly swag, so it was mostly Mexican sativa, but a lot of different traits, a lot of different expressions throughout the plants, and it was exciting. But at the same time, I was like, I need to grow better weed. So I was learning how to grow on overgrow.com. It was one of the big forums in the early 2000s before it got shut down. I learned a ton there, and I was like, all right, so I'm going to order seeds from Canada via Heaven Stairway. They get them from the Netherlands. This is going to be sweet. I'm like getting money orders and mailing them to Canada. And so I got some Dutch Passion Blueberry and some Dutch Passion White Widow. And that was my first run. That was like, holy shit, this weed is really good. And I had a like a commercial grade metal halide 400-watt light that I scored from this dude, and
Oh wow.
I had it hanging in my closet, and it was hot as shit. And I got like a conversion HPS bulb for it for flowering, and that damn light made some nice weed. So that was kind of my first real run in an apartment in my closet.
Okay. And you were like just straight learning from Overgrow, like no real local support, or did your other buddies like try to grow too?
No, dude, I had like no friends growing weed. I knew one dude who had grown a little bit of weed, so I talked to him like a tiny bit, but I
Right.
was learning everything online.
Okay.
And I was doing kind of an organic thing. I made my own soil. I had like a soil mix, and I used different, I had worm castings in it and some guano and this nice mix, and it worked really really well. And then I was just feeding teas like earth juice, and it worked really really well considering I had no experience at the time.
Yeah, and you could probably get everything at your local just garden store as opposed to
Yeah,
raising
it was a bit of
suspicion.
running around because I was in, central Texas, and it's hard to find certain things. You want a little dolomite lime, or you want some worm castings. Like Walmart didn't have it,
Pre
or
Amazon.
yeah, there was no Amazon. So it did take, I remember, some running around to kind of find the things I wanted to use. And then I had read enough online to say I shouldn't use tap water because of chlorine and this and that. So I was buying all my water in 1 gallon jugs from the grocery store.
Oh wow.
And it worked though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we now know chlorine is pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And I use tap water now. I just let it evaporate. So whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had friends who've had great tap water and I've had friends whose tap water I wouldn't drink, so.
Yeah, and that's another thing. It depends on your tap water. Here in Colorado, a lot of our water's pretty good. So I've got good water where I'm at, and that's all I use, and I don't have any issues.
Yeah. So when you first saw that different weed, then like you were motivated, did you take clones and sort of keep them around? Were you just growing from seed at that point?
Yeah, just from seed. And I was a little intimidated by cloning. I'd read about it, but I didn't really start cloning my own cannabis until about 10 years ago when I moved to Colorado.
Okay. And what prompted that? Just you finally felt comfortable keeping them around or?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to preserve my genetics. Plus, when I moved to Colorado, my first job was in cannabis. I had grown in Texas. People knew that I had experience with the plant, and then I had friends who had moved out here. They were working in cannabis, and then they started bugging. They're like, "Hey, if you ever move out to Colorado, we have a job for you." And I was like, "Whoa, well, I've considered it already. I love snowboarding." And then more of my friends moved out here, and they were like, "Well, if you move out here, we've got a spare bedroom," and everything kind of
Fell
came
into
together,
place.
and I moved out here, and my first gig was being I was basically an assistant grower for a nursery, and all we were selling were clones, was genetics. So I
Oh
was
wow.
filling cloners, taking clones, and they don't. I was only with them for a couple months before they made me lead cultivator, and I was managing the garden. So
Wow.
I got into cloning like that, and that was
Trial by fire.
almost all aeroponics.
Okay. And do you
So
still clone aeroponically or?
no, I just stick to cubes now. Rockwool cubes. It's just keep it simple, and
Yeah.
I would say 99% of my cuts fruit. I don't have any issues, and it's so much easier and less to maintain. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I just grow in cubes.
Cleaning the pump was always the breaking point for me.
Yeah, yeah, cleaning out cloners and stuff like that. Thankfully they let me hire some assistants, and I didn't have to do that for too long. But um, yeah, that cleaning can be a pain. We had a lot of flood tables.
Well, and it's the trade-off, right? Like you're either going to clean the aero cloner regularly enough so that you don't have to buy cubes and things that may draw attention,
Yeah.
whereas or just add costs, but the flip side is your shared reservoir and it's a pain in the ass to clean.
Oh yeah, and if you have something go wrong, like we would get I don't know if it's pythium or some kind of infections in the plant where they get this, mucus on the stems, and it's game over. That whole cloner was done. You have to throw them out because they just don't bounce back. You don't have that problem in a Rockwool cube,
Right.
ever.
Yeah, I mean, and if one dies, you just toss it,
Yeah, you just toss it, and even that's pretty rare for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've found most success in cubes in trays, but I've gone through
Totally
all the you can dial in any method if you're dead set on it.
true. Yeah, yeah. I've tried other things too, the rapid rooters and all that stuff, but I just like the Rockwool cubes, man. They work great.
Yeah. So you were in the nursery doing aeroponics, and then how did your grower journey continue?
So, like a lot of cannabis businesses, poor management, poor ownership, business didn't last. We were doing well, and we were operating in kind of a gray area. So we didn't have a MIP. We weren't flowering anything, at least not to sell. So we didn't have like THC, so to speak. All we had was veg plants and clones, and we were just selling mostly teen plants left and right out the door. We'd have these open houses at our nursery, and people would just all these growers would show up, and we tried to stick to this, we'll only sell you 6, so you're in regulation. But then someone would show up and want 50 plants, and we're like, all right, take 50 plants.
Yeah.
So we were just pushing plants out the door, and it was working. But like I said, there was management issues, and they started laying my support off, and then I just knew it was coming. And then my assistant and me, they're like, we're shutting down the company, we're letting you go. And we said okay, and then we just started. Me and my buddy started doing it at home, which I had done on and off for the last, since the early 2000s.
Right.
But this time I was in Colorado. I was more comfortable. I had access to much better genetics. I had access to clones. I
You
had
could
more
tell
space to
people that
work
you
with.
had clones available.
Yeah, yeah. So we started off growing a lot of stuff that we had at the nursery, and it didn't take long to figure out that popping seeds and getting other clones, I was able to get way better stuff. So,
Yeah.
uh, but
So
yeah, I learned a lot there, especially in terms of plant care, IPM, hydroponics. I hadn't done any hydroponics before I moved to Colorado, and I fell in love with it right away. Like I like automation.
okay.
Um, so that was a really great learning experience working there. Even though the experience with the company itself wasn't great, the learning was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, finding those lessons is
Yeah.
huge. And like you said, especially as a home grower now, but any time, like the ability to see other grows, to see other systems, to give you exposure to
Oh,
like, hey,
totally.
this is
I
a
never
different way
knew
to
a
do
plant
it.
could grow so fast. when you
Yeah.
when you have like ebb and flow, flood and drain type systems, it's insane how fast plants grow.
Yeah. And if you can maintain that momentum, it's
Yeah,
like, it's a different grow.
right.
So did you then go to another licensed growing opportunity, or you just said, I'm out, I'll just do this for
Yeah,
fun?
that was kind of honestly, I was getting paid really well there, and I looked at other places. I interviewed with some of the big names in the industry. One of the big I won't say any names, but like one of the big edible companies out here made me an offer, and I had grow experience and everything. And when we got to talking about things, and I told them I want to be in the garden, and they said, well, best we can do is bring you on trim crew, and $12 an hour. And I was like, man, I just moved to Denver. I was like, there's no way I can survive on that. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, you've already told us what you've been making, and we don't expect you to jump ship and come to us. And I was like, I'm not going to. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
So it didn't take long for me to get kind of discouraged with the industry and how poorly it pays. It's kind of like treated like retail at the end of the day, but it's retail that gets taxed so terribly hard that it trickles down to the fact, it makes it so they can't really pay their employees very well.
Yeah.
And I thought in my 20s, I was like, if I had a dream job, it's to grow cannabis for a living. And you're reading online about how these quote unquote master growers make $100,000. And I was like, shoot, I'm going out to Colorado. I'm going to make that happen. And then when I got here, it was like a reality check. I was like, bro, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's this idea of the green rush, and that the people who have experience are going to be the ones that are rewarded for sticking it out and, waiting for legalization. And it's very much not the case, as we all know.
Right.
But, yeah, it'll be interesting as times progress, if that becomes more of a thing. Like, I see people succeeding, but it's not the rule. It's like, oh wow, you're actually doing, oh cool, like that's that's
it's not many
I hear
people.
all the time.
Almost everyone I've known that has worked in the industry out here has already left it.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
So after the nursery, I was like, man, I just want to do this kind of on my own as a hobby thing on the side, and I'll get back to real estate and construction where I had a background. So, and I still do that today.
Okay.
So the grow stuff is my hobby that is sometimes a little bit profitable for me, and I love it.
Yeah, it pays in all sorts of ways. Like
Oh, totally.
And so on that note, one of the things that when we first met, I was impressed by was, like, you were breeding your own genetics just for funsies, not even to, like, give away, just to see what there was, and then hunting through it. Like, how did that come about, or when did that, come about?
I guess it's been like maybe 5 or 6 years around pre-COVID or COVID, where I was like, I have this like RV in the backyard and I'm not doing a lot with it. I was like, I should throw pollen in that bitch, So so I got a pack of seeds from in-house at one of the Indo Expos. I was like super excited about this banana cream pie, right?
Yeah.
12 seeds, every freaking seed was a male.
Ooh.
So out of those males, there was one that stood out. This thing was just robust, like throwing 11 leaf fans, just wild looking, like something you see in the jungle or something. I said, oh, man, I'm going to breed with this. So I threw this male in the shower of my RV, and I just surrounded it by some of my hitters, and just let them do their thing. And that's how I made Rum Runner, Clementine and banana cream pie. And out of all the seeds I have, Rum Runner, I've only run like 4 phenotypes, I think, and one of them is just phenomenal. And you've processed it for me. You've got a clone now. It's a keeper in every way. It checks all the boxes, and I'm pretty proud of that plant. But I've got some other stuff that's from that same project that's good too.
Yeah, I mean, I was so stoked, like, when we first, met and we're talking about doing some processing, and like a Clementine anything is like a hash maker's worst nightmare. You're like, oh,
yeah,
really? You're Clem froze it? Why would you do that? Like, don't. And like, to find a Clem that does wash at a decent level and does have that robust profile in addition to the banana cream pie is really, it really is a special plant. So like, props to you on that.
Is.
But the terp pie, same thing. There were a few of them that like I'd never heard of, and I'm like, you were like, oh yeah, I made that in my garage and just hunted it and found something cool.
Well, yeah, the terp pie is actually from I don't know if you've heard of these guys. They're here in Colorado, Great White Buffalo.
Okay, no, I haven't. I've heard that phrase, but
I want to say they were doing stuff with Oleo.
Okay.
I don't know how they're all tied together, but they reached out to me on Instagram, and we were talking plants, and they're like, we're doing all these breeding projects. We're looking for some moms, like, what do you have right now? Are you willing to share anything? I was like, dude, I got some great stuff. And they're like, man, we'll hook you up. We got seeds from our other projects. We'll give you some hash. So I met up with these dudes in Target parking lot. I gave them like my mountain trop cookies that I had, my straw nana. I had 90 micron from Bloom. I had a handful of things that were, I think they would be interested in. And
Desirable.
yeah, and so they gave me some seed packs, and most of them were these peach pie crosses. And I'll tell you, man, I found some real keepers. The stuff that I've popped from those guys has been really good for the most part.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still using their gear today. I've actually crossed some of those plants with purple ice water recently, and made some of my own crosses with those.
Okay.
And terp pie being one of them. So I made what I call terp syrup, is terp pie crossed to purple ice water.
Okay, very cool. And so then these are all regs that you're making, or just finding
Yes.
males? Okay.
Yeah. I just keep a male that I think is good looking, and I know that it came from good genetics to begin with. And like I said, I've only done a couple of breeding projects, and but yeah, just regulars.
But then you're also getting to pop them and like hunt through them.
Yeah, and that's the fun part.
Yeah. So talk about that, like how, like when you popped like the Rum Runner, or like, when you pop crosses of your own, because you've got extra seed, because you're not like, oh, I have 12 seeds. Like, are you throwing 50 in a cup and seeing what the strongest survives?
No, I usually just do a handful, man. And I, from the beginning, I like to stick to stuff that shows vigor from day one.
Yeah.
Like, if it's growing fast and it's healthy and it's happy, and then it's got these little mutants next to it, well, the mutants go in the garbage. Like, I don't even waste the time to try to see if they'll pan out. Right. Like, I want something that's strong, like from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more that way as I talk to people like yourself, and just in general, people are advising it's generally not, the milk's not worth the squeeze when you're chasing mutants that might have something special.
Exactly.
Very cool. So what are you working on these days in the grow? Are you hunting through anything exciting? Are you making anything, or what's your current focus?
So the last project, like I said, I crossed a handful of, kind of my favorite plants with purple ice water. And so I've been running those for the last couple runs, and yeah, some of the stuff has come out pretty good. And I think the next kind of breeding project I'm gonna do, I've got one male sitting around that's apricot jelly from in-house.
Okay.
And I'm gonna cross it with a bunch of my other like fruity strains, or strains that are known washers, and just kind of see what I get.
That's fun. So you're breeding for washers or just for flavors, or?
Honestly, I'm more breeding toward washers recently than in the past, because I like hash more. And now that I know you, I've got someone who can help me process that kind of stuff, and you're dependable. So I'm more interested in that. But in the past, I mostly go for terps and bag appeal, yield. I don't want something that's going to give me 2 ounces when other plants are giving me like 5 or 6 or better.
Right.
So I like things that do kind of check all the boxes. And I like my stuff to stand out. When someone looks at it and they're like, holy shit, that's what I like to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And different flavors, right? Like, and I mean, going back to the Rum Runner, like that's a jar I'll pull out, and you're like, all right, smell test these, and that one, you're like, wait a minute. Give me
it stays loud, right?
Yeah. And the mouth coat, like, is something I look for these days in flavors.
Yeah. And I kind of gravitate a little bit towards the like citrus or fruity kind of candy terps a little bit more. Like, I'm not really a fan of GMO sort of stuff that much. I know it's an amazing plant. As a grower, I appreciate it, but I prefer to smoke something a little sweeter.
No, I agree. I definitely have a bias towards the sweet side of things, and my wife's is what keeps me in balance, because she likes the gassier, funkier stuff. So,
okay, yeah.
I end up with both in the available flavors list, because it is what it is. Have you kept anything for flower, like that you were like, even though I know that this makes good hash, or that it does well, or maybe it does terrible, was there anything you were like, this is still fire flower, I'm going to keep this plant?
Another one that was from Great White Buffalo is their WAP, is Wet Ass Peaches, and washed it for me. It did terrible, but the flower is freaking beautiful. It's like super iced out. It has like kind of a light sweet fruity smell. But I mean, it's a sort of bud, when you present it to someone in a jar or a bag, whatever, it's got that wow factor to it. So I still have it around. I might use it for breeding, but I'll obviously never wash it again.
Yeah, no, I mean, or you hit it with a washer and try your luck.
Right, exactly.
That's fun, man. So hunting through your own gear, making your own gear, smoking your own hash, like
Yeah.
the hobby maker's dream. Are you going? You have any interest in pursuing hash making or?
Um, Maybe on a personal scale, and I've told you that I think once before, where I've only been present for producing some solventless once,
Yeah.
and it was while it was exciting, I didn't really pay close enough attention or take notes or anything. So I do have interest in that. Yeah, I think it would be fun
Yeah.
to make my own.
Well, and since you're already, self sufficient in so many of the other ways, it's right up
Right.
the
It's just
alley
like
of,
one more thing in my
hey, turn
arsenal.
the RV into a cold room. Now you've got
Well,
dual.
I sold it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't really using it, and after COVID, like the price of RVs like kind of went pretty high, and I didn't lose any money off it. I only owned it for a few years, and I sold it for like the same I paid for it. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
but it was nice while I had it because I did have some flex space. I even grew microgreens in it for a while, so I was definitely using it to grow stuff, and more than I was traveling. That's for sure.
So were you using the same like grow equipment from the cannabis setup for your microgreens or
Yeah, you can just get like LED shop lights, like T5s or whatever, and
yeah.
microgreens will grow just fine under those.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were like putting clone racks to work as a microgreen setup.
No. I mean, microgreens are real easy. Just the trays with basically I would use like a hemp mat substrate, and then a two tray setup, so it's like just a flood underneath them, just a puddle underwater underneath them, and it's really easy to grow microgreens, man. Like once you watch a few YouTube videos, super fast harvest, super nutritious, so yeah, they're kind of fun to grow.
No, I mean, I think it's cool. It's cool to see how like some of these things overlap. Like I've seen IPM help me with my wife's house plants, and I've
100%.
seen like growing tomatoes or whatever. You just start to notice some of the things that maybe if we'd paid attention in middle school in science, that you're like, oh shit, this is basic.
Well, yeah, I would say like I grew some house plants in high school. Like I had a bonsai tree and stuff, and they didn't do that well. They
That's like
died and
full
stuff.
scale hobby, by the way, not like casual. I had a house plant. Bonsais are like,
Yeah, and I found out like they need a lot, and so I kind of was, turned off by plants at that point. I was like, maybe I don't have a green thumb. Like my grandpa had a green thumb. My grandma on the other side had a green thumb. My mom has a green thumb, and then I started growing cannabis, and it turned me on to everything else. And I'm a huge gardener now.
yeah, same thing, dude. I'd kill all sorts of house plants. I was like, there's no reason I'm not gonna grow weed. There's no way it's gonna work out. And
Yeah.
now
No, weed like refreshed me to, botany and everything. And now I have probably, I don't know, 50 to 100 house plants. I have big garden beds out back. We have a huge summer garden every year. And
you do outdoor as well, or do you just
yeah, small scale, just to kind of keep things
a couple plants
private and yeah, just a few plants.
exercise your constitutional right in Colorado?
Yeah. But I do like growing outdoor, but I feel like I can grow so much better quality indoor. It's so much more controlled. The sun does great things. The plants grow fast and they're thick, but I've noticed that a lot of times they're more leafy and airy. You don't get those tight buds. You got to deal with the aphids and everything else outdoors. So it's just so much easier inside to keep things clean and beautiful, really, just like more potent.
Yeah. I mean, I've found that my limited outdoor experience of throwing plants outside, but yeah, like you're at the whims of Mother Nature. You don't have as much control, and like genetic selection seems to be way more important. Like I've thrown,
Oh, yeah.
hey, I have 2 extra clones, throw them out in the greenhouse with the vegetables. One gets PM, dies, the other one just does its thing. You're like, oh wow, okay, that obviously that one is not have a problem with PM, that maybe we could grow this outdoors, whatever. So it's been, yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see the difference in performance and difference in skill set, right? Like I feel like myself had as a novice grower was like, if I can do this indoors, I can do this outdoors, and it's a totally different game.
Very different. Yeah. Very different.
And I also think that if you could do the mixed light under like a greenhouse, if we all had just unlimited budget for our hobbies, Mixed light with sunlight would be fire for
Oh yeah, I've
production.
never done it, but I would love to.
Yeah, I mean that's what they say, right? Especially from a hash standpoint. Like the sun does things that you just can't replicate, and if you could incorporate that in a way that you had full control,
Yeah,
if I win the lottery or if I stumble across a buried treasure, then you'll
yeah,
notice because I'll have a glass house that's glowing in the backyard.
I know. Yeah, that's the ticket.
That's fun stuff. So since Overgrow, when Overgrow went down, like how did you start getting information? Like had you already moved to Colorado then and started asking people or?
No, I was still in Texas for a long time after they shut down Overgrow, and then it was just utilizing what you could online and basically just reading books. You grab a book from Jorge Cervantes or whatever, and just learn everything you can, and then practice it in your closet or whatever.
Yeah, I mean Barnes and Noble was like the only place I remembered as a kid that you could get like High Times, all the weed
Yeah.
growing books.
Well, High Times was inspirational too, because you flip through those magazines and you see these like amazing plants that are super frosty, and like that's what I'm gonna grow one day. And that
Right.
one day is here. I've got friends that are like, dude, your pictures look like High Times stuff, and I was like, well, that's what I've been going for all along.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we forget surrounded by it all, but when I talk to people who are not doing this, they don't spend their time in the grow. They don't get to touch plants. They're like, this is insane what you get to do. And
Yeah,
like, it's just gardening. I mean, it is cool, but at a certain level, like you can grow these plants too. I can
yeah,
help you.
no, you can. I mean, it's really just about putting in the effort.
Yeah. Yeah, and having the climate, I like Texas being a dry climate, Colorado being a dry climate. Like I think
Yeah,
that helps as far as it's helped me. Like the people that I know that are in humid climates have very different challenges.
yeah, yeah. And Texas has its humidity, but
Yeah, I
I
guess
was always
depending
I
on
was
where
always
you're at.
indoor, so it was never a problem. I never even saw powdery mildew until I came to Colorado.
Oh wow, see, and that's so far. But we get these massive swings, I guess.
Yes, and I think that makes a big difference, and it's all about controlling climate. And the more you grow, the more you figure that out, and then you don't see that stuff so much.
Yeah.
Like I haven't had I haven't seen powdery mildew in maybe 6 years or something like that.
Okay. Do you do preventative IPM or you just keep it pretty
Yeah, and
sealed?
I keep it to a minimum. I don't spray my plants very often, once a week at most in my veg. And I stick to pretty natural stuff, your citric acids, you know, different essential oils. I actually like Athena's IPM blend. So I use that sometimes, but neem oil.
Yeah.
If I get a problem, which is rare, but if I find some bugs, then I might bust out something else. But yeah, my IPM's pretty basic. I just keep my environment in check, and I don't bring in dirty stuff from other grows.
Yeah. I
Kind of
was gonna
careful
say
as far
that's
as
the if you're not bringing in anything dirty, then it really comes down to your own
yeah.
cleanliness.
I mean, I even like spider mites. I don't think I've seen spider mites in 5 years or better. The only pest I usually will see maybe once a year or something is a few thrips, and I can get those knocked out with spinosad pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like with this changing of the weather, and you get those seasonal swings of occasional thrips coming in, and on the dog
Mhm.
or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought they were coming in on my like soil
Oh
or like
wow, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
I
but
mean,
I
it
was
could come
just
in
like
anywhere.
yeah, who knows? And even though even with the thrips, it would always be in my veg. I'd never have a problem with those in flower. I would just find a few in my veg plants, and then I attack them right away. And a week later, I don't find them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was always told like your dog is out there rolling around in the grass. There's a high probability that if you're not finding an infestation, you just found one or two floating around. It's
Yeah, it's
either
only a matter of time if you don't do something.
it's your
Yeah.
feet, your dog, your rug, something that
Oh
you
yeah.
came in on.
Yeah.
Or if you're like my wife and you come home with new houseplants from the garden store, then
That
could
too, you got to be careful. Like as far as house plants go, I feel like mealy bugs are the bane of my existence.
see an aphid. Like I use roots 707, and like everybody has talked about fungus gnats and aphids can come loaded
Uh-huh.
in some of these medias, and
Yep.
when I pat in some of her plants or we fill a new pot, there's always that like, oh, they're flying around again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a fungus gnat infestation in my house plants a few months back, and I attacked them from a few different routes, and now I don't have any. But man, they were all over my house, and I was just
Oh
like
yeah.
chasing them down with a spray bottle of ISO, just like, you know, they were
Yeah.
everywhere.
No, I mean, I'd like, we've talked about like rotation being key. Like some of
Yeah,
these bugs are, they're the super bugs. You gotta hit them 1, 2, 3 before you knock them down.
yeah, totally. But thankfully, I don't have that much of a problem in the cannabis. I have very, very few pest problems.
Yeah. No, I mean, like your stuff's always looked real clean. I mean, and this is something I've been talking about with other hash makers too. Is like when you throw material into the water, like you can tell right out the jump if something's off. And I mean,
Yeah,
maybe not if it's a very, very minus problem, but you could tell like if there's bugs floating around in the top of the water, if there's oils in the top of the water, like some
yeah,
of these
they
things
sprayed
are,
something, or you get a weird smell or something.
yeah, or you're just like, I can see a bug, dude. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's no hiding it once it's in the water. So, but
no,
yeah, I appreciate that, and I think it lends itself to like we all talked about the home grower has the ability to give a lot more attention to their plants.
oh, 100%. It makes all the difference.
Like when you were running moms, like how many moms did you guys have at any given time?
Oh man, without really thinking and counting, I would say maybe 60 or something.
Okay, I was gonna say 50 plus, but I mean even
Yeah,
still, like that's 50 different genetics to like keep those moms happy and keep them in
yep.
prolonged veg and you
Oh, and I
know
learned, like I said, a lot about IPM there because you name it, we dealt with it at that facility.
yeah.
I'm talking like root aphids. Oh my, when root aphids infest a garden, it's difficult, man. Those things were nasty, nasty.
Well, and like it's also the burden of like being a nursery, right? In the same
Yeah.
vein as like home growers, I take a lot of extra care if I'm going to give somebody a clone. Like I'm either going to be fully transparent, like, hey, there's root 707 in here, you might see a fungus gnat or two, or I'm going to be like, this was treated with azadirachtin, just so you know, in case you're going to treat it with something, or I'm just not going to give you the clone, like if there's something wrong with it, But there's that burden with especially with a licensed nursery, of if you're providing that start to somebody, you gotta give them a clean start to go from. And I think you're back.
Okay. I don't see you yet, but yeah, my for the second time today, my electricity just flashed off at my whole house.
I saw it go dark, and I just figured they were your grow lights that went out on you.
Yeah,
But
dude. So then, of course, the modem has to restart, and that's happened twice today. And of course, I'm running over to my light timer to get it set back. And
so are you part? Have you been hit with some of these like rolling blackouts that they've said are like fire prevention?
I guess I got a text about it from Excel a couple days ago, and nothing happened. And then today, I've had two of these like quick blackouts, and then
Damn.
the power comes right back on.
Man, not to go down a totally separate rabbit hole, but we've talked about RVs, and I've gotten myself a little travel trailer, and have
Dude,
been looking at these backup batteries, and they advertise them for that exact thing. Like if you're dealing with power hiccups, like there's
uh-huh.
no gap, but God, you want to back up a whole house? Those batteries are not cheap.
No, no. I mean, I've considered getting one just for my grow, just for my timers and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be like I've thought about it just for doing a grow like off grid. Like there was a dude I watched on YouTube at one point that bought like the smallest solar setup you could do to run like a 2x2.
Yeah.
And even that, it worked until he had rainy days. He's like, it replenished just enough to like get me through a full day of cycle, and I could grow until we had a rainy day, and then I didn't have a recharge that day, and then it was
Yeah,
downhill.
solar. So what were we were talking about IPM, right?
Yeah, just and the burden of the nursery, right? Like, so if you're
Yeah,
giving
yeah. The
out
more plants you
clones,
have, the harder it is to care for every one of them.
well, and also like the responsibility aspect of like, hey, if you need a tray of clones for your facility, I'm trying not to also give you russets or aphids or
Oh yeah.
fungus gnats or whatever else might be.
Oh yeah. So that was always scary. You don't want to sell anything that has a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and the industry's rampant with it, like especially as it's a semi-closed system, I guess. Like we all know that there's ways are in and around things, but generally speaking, I feel like once a genetic is in the marketplace, anyone who touches it is picking up what everybody else has had.
Oh yeah, I got clones from one of the dispensaries years ago, and I was excited about the genetics, and they exploded with PM not long after I had them, and I was like, oh great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's funny. I have a good friend who he's been pretty good at sniping cuts from dispensaries, but
Hmm.
he's willing to do that quarantine and that preventative and I can go through, like he and I were talking about it, how like he has a cut that, you can go get from the dispensary. You have to find it on the shelf, but like the value of his cut, unlike just buying it off the shelf, is you don't have to do that quarantine. Now, any smart grower should do quarantine, but
Right.
you're not like, what is the industry giving me? It's been sort of this intermediary vetting of like he doesn't typically test, but I have tested a few of his cuts before I've brought them into my grow, and they've all come back clean because he
Right.
does these quarantines and he makes sure that they're vetted in a way, in his own way. And so that's such an inherent, again, if you're just bringing stuff in, flipping it, calling it a day, cool. But if you're keeping a stable around, it's the burden of keeping a clean stable is one of the understated things, I think.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, just spending the time to look at your plants on a daily basis and look for problems. You
Yeah.
know, if you see a leaf that has something weird going on, turn it over, see if there's bugs under it, see what's going on, investigate a little bit because it doesn't take long for some of these pests to really cause an infestation.
Yeah. And also, pathogens spread just as fast. Like I was, and I find the value, maybe you have found this here living in Colorado, but like having other growers to talk to, Discord, forums, Reddit, wherever you
Uh-huh.
find that, like it's a second set of eyes, even for people who are experienced at growing. I've been growing
Oh yeah.
7 years at this point, and I'll still send a picture to somebody who's been growing longer than me, and they're like, "You should kill that plant.
Yeah,
Just kill
yeah.
it before the rest of the tray looks like that." Or whatever the advice is at that moment.
No, right. I've got a small network of grow friends, but I've learned a lot from other
Yeah,
people. One of my buddies, we bounce ideas off each other a lot, and we both say the same thing. Like, I've learned so much from you. And he's like, I've learned so much from you. So
yeah.
I like that a lot.
Well, and having somebody to like, it's like learning something with a partner is or a community, whatever you find yourself with. I think for a lot of people adds to the excitement and the fun of the hobby,
Yeah.
whether that's online or otherwise. What other resources, like if you were gonna tell people who are growing, like if you're trying to get started or if you are getting started and you want to improve your craft and maybe you don't have a friend that's growing, like what other resources were helpful for you? You mentioned Jorge Cervantes books, High
Yeah,
Times,
I mean, this was
Overgrow.
before YouTube, but I would say YouTube's probably huge now. There's all kinds of stuff you can learn, and people who document their grows and are real detailed and descriptive about what they're doing. So I think a new grower could probably learn a lot on YouTube, but I don't know. At the same time, if I were talking to someone who didn't have a lot of experience and they were interested in starting to grow, I'd probably just tell them to kind of keep it simple but effective. You don't need the most expensive grow tent. You don't need a Gorilla grow tent. You can buy a cheap Vivo Sun or something. You don't need the most high end light. There's Amazon lights that are under $100. You can grow good weed under them. There's a lot of ways you can kind of simplify the whole process, but I think the important thing is to be creative and just get in there every day, spend time with the plants, look at them, see if there's any issues. I feel like a lot of new hobby growers don't last because they don't put in the time and then they end up failing. You can't just water a plant and walk away and hope your lights and your timers do the rest because it's just so much more than that. You got to be a little more detailed, a little bit more attentive.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree, and like this idea of automation, I think is often misconstrued as a replacement for being there. Whereas like the best
Yeah,
growers I know that use automation are still in their grow just as much. It's just now that they're not
yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm a fan of automation, especially in my flower, but I'm there every night and I'm there for a while.
right. And like
And
because there's so much else to do.
yeah, yeah, and I would say, if I were talking to a new grower, I'd say, man, start off by hand watering for sure,
Yeah.
because you can really gauge what they need and dial things in and just feel the pot, see if it needs water, touch the soil. And once you figure all that out and you're already growing good weed, then start looking at automation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a forcing function, right? Like, if you like the plants and you like hand watering, I personally am one of those people. That's awesome. But like, even as a beginner, if you don't, and you quickly learn you want to automate the watering, until you
Yeah.
do, you have a reason to be in the grow. You're like, I have to go water the
Yeah,
plants. I have to start
100%.
building this into my schedule. So, no, I
Right.
completely agree with that. So let's talk about some rapid fires and comparing your current grow stack to kind of your first grow stack. So you mentioned the metal halide. Was that the first light, like first true setup, not just bag seed in the forest?
Yeah, that was my first, real setup growing what I considered good quality product. So yeah, I was doing kind of an organic thing and growing under the 400-watt metal halide HPS.
Okay, and were you in a tent or in a closet or?
Yeah, I was in a closet with like those sliding mirror doors. But I
Okay,
squeezed four plants in there. I've gotten the seeds online through Heaven Stairway, Dutch Passion, Blueberry, and White Widow, and yeah, they were wonderful.
just watering teas and some amendment
Yeah,
castings
yeah,
and
I
amendments.
had a lot of the food was built into the soil mix, and then yeah, I was just hitting them with teas.
Okay,
And
very
super
cool.
happy plants, real green. I didn't get a single yellow leaf, and I thought I had it all figured out. But then further down the road, I tried similar stuff, and it didn't work as well. So it's funny, but
And
I
so,
now I'm more of a synganics person. I kind of a grower. I like my synthetics, but I still use a lot of microbes and teas and stuff.
okay, so and are you running? I'm assuming you're running LEDs now.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and okay, and so are you in? You're no longer in soil. You're in cocoa, or you're in rock wool,
yeah,
or what?
yeah. I use a 70/30 cocoa perlite mix.
Okay, nice. And so then, what are your from a feed standpoint? Like, what do you have a particular nutrient line you prefer? Do you mix and match, or?
Yeah, I've tried a lot of different things over the years. What I'm using now and what's working and has been working for a while in my veg, just CalMag and GH Florinova Grow. It's a
Okay.
one, the green bottle. One bottle has pretty much got it all. I supplement it with a little bit of CalMag and just keep my ppm and my pH in check, and everything in the veg is always happy.
I mean, that's it just goes to prove you can keep it simple, right?
Yeah, and then in my flowering space, I have had really good luck using jacks and microbes.
Okay. No, that's great tips. I mean, I think it goes to show also that you can use a wide variety of products and you don't have to be
Yeah, and
just
I
team
used
bottle or
I used
team
Veg
salt or
Bloom. Exactly. Yeah, I used Veg Bloom for years. I've used all the different, 3-part GH, the Florinova GH. There's probably a few other, synthetics I've used, but the Jax has been really good. I'm pretty impressed by it.
that's good to hear. I mean, and it's not something I've heard often, so it's cool to hear other options for people to consider as they
Yeah, big yields under Jax with Jax. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, and I've enjoyed the hash that we've made, and it definitely has a
Yeah.
great profile to it. Very flavorful.
Hmm.
Do you keep anything for flour these days, or does it all go to hash?
Oh no, I keep flour.
Okay.
I,
And are
I've got a circle of people that are very happy to share my flour. So I like to. Most of what I grow for is flour, and then I do the hash on the side, and
oh,
that's
okay.
more for me and my close friends.
Yeah. No, okay. So are you a wet trimmer or a dry trimmer? How do you approach trimming?
I'm a dry trimmer, but I do defan before I hang it. I'll take off the big leaves, and then the sugar leaf comes off once it's dry.
Okay. And then we've talked about salts organics. You're a Synganics guy. Are you popping any seeds these days or growing mostly from clone?
Both. So I just popped some seeds a few weeks ago, and I have a few things that I'm kind of excited about. Haven't done this in a while, but a dispensary here in Denver did a 420 release of basically it was like $100 or something, and you get a 6 pack of seeds, and you get 2 grams of hash. So I was like, you know what, this one of the strains kind of stood out, and I was like, I'm gonna go get some seeds from the dispensary. And
Hell yeah.
dude, they're growing great right now. So basically, I got from Apothecary fermented honey,
Okay.
and it's honey banana and Wilson crossed to sour papaya. And you are very familiar with sour papaya. You gave me a cut recently, so I'm pretty excited about that because I love the honey banana. I like all the banana strains, banana OG, and then you got Wilson, which is papaya banana OG, and all that crossed to sour papaya. So I'm stoked about it. And I popped 3 seeds, all of them germinated. They're growing fast, and we'll see what happens.
Very cool. Yeah, that honey banana also I think is the same honey banana that was on the market for a while, and
I loved it.
Yeah,
I
so
loved
good.
it. I mean, it just smells like what it's called. It smells like a honey banana sandwich or something.
Shout
It's
out
just
Standing Akimbo from back in the day for having all
yeah,
the honey
yeah. And
banana.
I remember at one time they were selling clones, and I was like, "Well, I want the honey banana," and they kind of laughed, and I was like, "No, I'm serious." And they're like, "Well, we'll sell it to you," and I said, "Well, how much do you want?" And they wanted $10,000.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
I laughed at them. I was like, "Come on, guys, are you serious?"
You're like, I'll come back in a year. That thing will be under $500.
Yeah. So
Hey, you
but
know,
yeah, I'm excited about the fermented honey.
strong cut's a strong cut, man. I'm excited to hear how those do for you. That'll be a fun hunt.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so flour or hash, if you had to pick one.
For personal use,
Yeah.
I like hash.
Okay.
Um, I feel like you get a better real flavor representation of the plant. You know, smoke tastes like smoke at the end of the day. You might get a little flavor there, but hash tastes like those terpenes from the plant. And I like that. I like opening it up and smelling it and being like, wow, I can't believe a plant smells like this, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a
Yeah.
particular preference for types of hash, like melt or rosin or BHO or?
I like rosin.
Okay.
I do still get hydrocarbon made from my sugar trim. I've got a guy who uh, does a great job for me. So I do still. He's supposed to be making my hash today,
Hey, there
and
you
I'll
go.
I'll be picking it up in the next few days of some BHO. But you know that is just kind of to the side. I share it, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, for personal use, I gravitate toward solventless.
Okay. What about genetics you're running? I know you've created a bunch of your own, but are there any particular genetics or maybe like 2, 3 breeders you'd recommend to other growers? Like the Great White Buffalo seems like they've had some good
Yeah,
hits
for
you.
local, those guys, I was pretty impressed by what I got from them. Aside from them, in the past, I've had pretty good luck with in-house genetics, with Bloom. You know, there's probably a few others here and there, but um,
Yeah, that Great White Buffalo seems like the sleeper if you're looking for
yeah,
a
yeah,
new
definitely.
place to
If you
find
can
some.
track those guys down, and if they have any packs, I would scoop them and see what you get because I got a lot of good stuff from them. I was pretty impressed.
I love that stuff. Like I love finding like small niche. I don't want to say small niche because I don't want to throw shade. It's not shaded by any means, but undiscovered. It's like finding a new band that you're like, oh man, this is gonna
Yeah.
be so popular. People are gonna love this when they hear it.
No, but years ago, I grew some really impressive genetics from in-house. So I was pretty happy with them for a while. Like I said, I had a pack of banana cream pie that was 12 males, and that was a huge bummer. But I got you know a stud male, and I made some great crosses, and it worked out. But I grew a lemon lime punch that I remember I really liked, a grapes of wrath, black cherry punch. You know, I still got platinum scout from in-house. It's great.
Oh wow. Okay. Are there any epic cuts that you've had that you've loved that you've lost that you would bring back if you could?
Dude, if anyone's listening and has the smoothie 14er cut of strawberry banana, I screwed around and lost it. I ran it for years. I loved it. It kind of checked all the boxes for me. And then I thought I took clones of it, and I didn't. And after my run, I go through my inventory and I was like, where the hell is straw nana? And I almost had a meltdown.
Oh man.
So I lost that one a while back, and I wouldn't mind having it again, at least for breeding, because I really, really liked it.
Yeah, I actually might be able to help you locate that one. I have a few friends that may be
Okay.
still growing that one. So
Yeah, yeah. So that was one. I had a pretty interesting phenotype of black cherry punch from in-house, and unfortunately, my house and grow got raided, and I lost all my genetics, and that's how I lost that one. And I really wish I had that plant back.
Man, I feel like we glazed right over that story. I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Oh, if you want to get into my downs in the cannabis industry, we can get into that too.
what's it like being? I'm assuming this was in Texas. Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that was in Colorado. So, well, all right. So let's rewind. We'll start off in Texas.
okay.
So, I'll try to keep this short, but I mentioned my first grow, Dutch Passion Blueberry and White Widow, stellar plants. That was it was bittersweet because it was a great run and I had these beautiful plants, but I unfortunately did not get to smoke any of it. So I tend to be pretty careful with who I associate with, who I talk to, who I show my grow to, and I thought I was doing all the right things, but unfortunately the wrong people found out. My girlfriend at the time had a friend in her apartment complex. No blame on my ex-girlfriend. She was a great girl, but she trusted someone and was like, yeah, my boyfriend has a little thing going on and we're going to have some plants soon. And well, it turns out that girlfriend of hers had a piece of shit boyfriend who decided he wanted to have what I had.
Yeah.
And happened to know where I lived because like the summer before we had a little house party when we moved in. So he and his ghetto homies basically broke into my apartment.
Damn.
And I just happened to be the only person home at the time. So I've got these dudes that I don't know in my house with fucking knives and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, this is not cool. Instantly I'm thinking like these dudes think I like stole one of their girlfriends or something. Like, why are they here? Who are they? I don't know them. And then I start to realize these motherfuckers are here to rob me. And it got physical. I was basically fighting two dudes and I ran out. I got out of my place and left. Well, they quickly found my plants in my closet, hacked them, took them, and bolted. And I was left like in shock kind of. And then I looked down, I'm like bleeding all over the place. My head's cut open. So I'm like, shit, I gotta like start cleaning this up. I go inside and my room is wrecked and stuff. And within like half an hour, there's pounding on my door and it's the police. So I guess like neighbors heard the commotion. They called the cops and they're like, open up or we're gonna kick your door in. And I was like, all right. So I open up and they, pistols drawn, pointed at me and shit. And one of my roommates, I had called him. I was like, man, can you come home? Like something just kind of happened. I just need a little support. So he had come home and they're like putting him in handcuffs. And I'm like, dude, look, we just got assaulted and robbed. Like, this is my roommate. We live here. Please don't handcuff him. And so like they finally calmed down, but they could smell weed because there was freshly chopped plants that just got removed from my closet. So they're like, where are the kilos at? And all this shit. And I was like, dude, like chill. Yeah. Like I had a couple plants in my closet and some guys that I don't know just like assaulted me and stole them. Like, I'll be straight up with you. That's what just happened. So they're like, all right, so let's get you to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. They, staple up my head and shit. And this detective comes in at the hospital and wants to know what happened. And I was, kind of pretty honest with him, told him what was going on. So, I don't want to look for weed. So I was growing my own when these guys broke into my place and I got into a fight with them and they stole my shit. So he takes me home and the narcotic task force is in my apartment.
Oh shit.
So they just like tossed our whole place, even like dug through my roommates' rooms and stuff. And basically on my kitchen counter, they had like my bong and my BC vaporizer and my little scales and a jar of weed. And they're like, we got you, dude. And I was like, all right, cool. So you got me. And then they start pulling the typical cop bullshit where they're, hey, we want you to work with us and we'll make certain things disappear. We'll keep the university from finding out about this and this, that, and the other. And they basically were like, we want you to help us set up some deals with some dealers and bring some drug dealers down. And I was like, dude, like, you see, I'm growing a couple plants in my closet so I don't have to deal with those types of people. I was like, I'm no use to you. And they're like, well, you need to think about it and get back to us. And I did. I called them back and left a message on this asshole's voicemail. I was like, hey, yo, I was been thinking about what you said, and I can't really help you. so they I guess decided to make an example out of me, and kind of they hit me with everything they could, basically. And they didn't arrest me that day because they knew I'd gone through a lot. So they're like, we'll be issuing a warrant for your arrest later. And so the apartment complex told us we needed to move out, and went through that kind of shit. And I got a new place. And for a brief amount of time, I was living with my girlfriend. And when they issued the warrant, they showed up at her house one morning looking for me. And she was like, oh, he's not here. He moved out. He's, going to summer school, this, that, and the other. And um, she called me, and she's like, they're coming. They're coming to your house. They just came to my house. I was like, oh, great. So I knew I needed to turn myself in. I had a lawyer and everything, but I had a test that morning. My major was GIS, and I had a GIS test that morning, and I was like, man, I can't be like going to jail right now. I need to go take my test. So they were beating on my door, and I slipped out back, jumped a fence, and went and caught the bus to campus and go to class to take my test. Well, the task force and detective, whoever, they went to the admissions building on campus, got my schedule, went to my class, and arrested me in class.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So that was like mildly embarrassing, but at the same time, it was kind of like earning street cred.
Right. You're like, I've actually been walked out.
And the funny part is I had like a really cute professor. She was like 27 or something. And she was like, why did they come arrest you in my class? And I told her, I was like, yeah, I was growing weed and kind of got caught. And she was like, they did all that bullshit for weed? And I was like, yeah. She's like, that's fucking stupid. I was like, I know.
Like, if I'd known I was going to go through all that, I would have done the whole bedroom, not just the closet.
I know, exactly. And the funny part is, at the end of the day, I didn't have any weed because it got stolen. So they didn't actually charge me for cultivation, but they charged me like for, the finished material that I had in my room.
Possession and paraphernalia.
Yeah, possession.
Intent to distribute.
Yeah, all that good stuff. And of course, they let the university know. And at the time, Texas State was zero tolerance for marijuana.
Okay.
Cannabis, like I like to say, but they were calling it marijuana.
Right.
And so they basically told me I can dispute it and get kicked out, and it'll be on my record, or I can take 2 long semesters off and I can come back. So I took 2 long semesters off, and then I went back to school.
Oh, nice. And so then how does that lead to your Colorado
So
situation?
that was my first kind of brush in with the law. Another time, if you want to touch on one more, I went on a cruise with my family, and one of the stops was Jamaica.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, I got to get some weed in Jamaica. It's just like part of it. And it didn't take long. I'm like in a gift shop, and this dude's like, you want some weed? I know you do. And I was like, okay. And he pulls out this fat nug, and it just smelled so strong. And he's like, you got some money, right? And I was like, yeah, it's $20 good. And he's like, give me 30. I was like, whatever. So I gave him 30. He's like, I'm gonna break you off some hash too. And he gave me like a piece of hash. It looked like a Tootsie Roll,
Uh-huh.
And so me and my sister like smoked that on the cruise ship for the next few days. And it had these like massive seeds in this bud. I'd never seen seeds so big. And I was already like starting to grow at the time. So I was like, man, I'm going to bring these seeds back and I'm going to grow them. And not knowing any better, when we got off the cruise ship in Mississippi, there was a dog right there, right when you walk off the ship. And I had like put the stash just in my underwear. I was like, well, if they're going to sniff anything, they're going to sniff our luggage, right? So I'm going to wear it on me.
Huh?
And this little mutt just like locked onto my crotch. I'm like, damn it, man. Like my parents are there and my sister's there. And my mom's like, what the fuck? Why is the dog doing that? And I get pulled to the side, and they're like, all right, we're going to bring you behind this curtain, and there's this table, and they're like, we're only going to ask you once. Are you carrying contraband? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I've got some weed from Jamaica. And they're like, put it on the table. So I put it on the table, and then they caught another guy too. And they're like, every ship we catch a few of you. So like, I was like 20 years old, getting put in handcuffs in front of my parents. And then there's like another guy who's like 25, and he's getting arrested too. And they take us to this police station, and they, just fingerprint us and ask us a bunch of dumb questions. And then they found the hash, and they're like, oh, this is really bad for you, really bad. And I was like, oh, what? Why? And they're like, well, this is a manufactured drug. This is way worse than the flower you brought over. I was like, great. So what am I dealing with? And they get out this tester and they're shaking it and they put the hash in there and they're like, it's not testing very well. They're like, we're not going to charge you for it. This is garbage. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah. I tried smoking it and thought it tasted terrible. But anyway, so they charged me like $350, which I happened to have, even though I was a broke college kid. So I paid them. They took me back to the port, and I was able to go home with my parents. And it was a quiet trip home. My mom was kind of pissed at me. She got over it pretty quickly because she's cool. But yeah, so that was kind of a weird and a slightly embarrassing situation.
Yeah, I can see how that would be the unexpected end to a family vacation.
Yeah, totally. So those were my two kind of bigger
Brushes.
issues with authority and growing weed in Texas and possession weed. I got caught one other time at a movie theater parking lot, but it was not that big a deal. And then but out here in Colorado, we rented a house, me and my homie. He was my assistant grower. I actually knew him from college too. I had recruited him from Texas to come be my assistant. We started growing at home when we lost our job at the nursery, and things were fine, but we were growing in the garage. We had a rental, and the landlord, we were straight up with him. We told him we worked in the industry. We told him, I was like, look, we kind of want to grow some weed at home, just in the little tents. And I showed him a picture of what a grow tent looks like. And he's like, if you guys want to do that out in the detached garage, that's cool. He's like, just keep it out of the house. And I was like, well, fine. So we did. We were growing in our garage, and I got an electrician because we needed some power out there. We had like a 15 amp circuit out there. It was not going to do anything for us.
Yeah.
So I found an electrician who was cool with kind of wiring grow spaces and stuff. He's still a super close friend today. But he basically, we ran a sub panel out to the garage, and we had this big, like, heavy duty outdoor cable that you like use on job sites. And we ran it from our main panel at the house out to the garage. And that's how we had our power. And this house was an older house, like built in the 50s, and it didn't have any air conditioning. And we talked to the landlord. We're like, this house is pretty damn hot in the summer. He's like, yeah, no, I've been meaning to put AC. So he was like, he hit us up randomly, one summer, and he's like, hey, I'm going to add AC to the house. And we're like, sweet. Well, he pulled a permit to do it from the city, which to add a condenser, you don't really need to do that, but he did. And it cost us dearly. So when they install this system, they'll send an inspector from the city to make sure that they installed it properly and they wired it properly to the panel and stuff. And he saw that cable running from our panel out to our garage, and he fucking snitched. He reported it to Denver police and said, hey, you should go investigate these guys. I think they're growing weed in their garage.
Damn.
And this was in 2018, I think. And basically, I was at work one day, and my roommate was home, and they came knocking. And they're like, hey, we have information here or a complaint that you're growing cannabis, and we want to know more about your garden. And my roommate, instead of telling them get a warrant or fuck off or whatever, he was cooperative and showed them the garden. And they're like, nah, you guys have too many plants. We don't like what we see. So he said they basically told him to leave the house, and they took my dog with him. And he called me. He's like, hey, so like, I think we're being raided. He's like, they're pretty much going through our stuff. And I was like, what? And he said they told us to stay away from the house until they call us and we can go back. So basically, once they saw our grow, which we had like a couple of 8x8 tents in the garage,
Okay.
they went and got a warrant for the house, and they tossed our whole house, made a huge mess, completely destroyed everything, emptied out all our cabinets and opened up our HVAC registers, pulled our mattresses off our beds. Every drawer was opened and dumped out. And basically they I'm from Texas. I've got firearms and stuff. They took my guns. It was bad. Then they cut our power too. They're like, you're a city nuisance or whatever, neighborhood nuisance, and they cut our electric.
Oh wow.
So we couldn't even live in our house pretty much. So it was a huge process to get the electricity turned back on. We had to, basically clean out the grow and remove the the sub panel and all that, and get a licensed electrician to come out and verify that we did all that and submit it to the city. It was a huge process. It took several weeks. And then we got everything cleaned up. Our landlord, he was pissed about the situation, but we were still there. We were paying. Everything was done. We weren't growing anymore, and we thought we were in the clear, and he was going to keep us. And I guess about 8 weeks after the incident went down, the city came and posted like a notice on our door saying we had to move out.
Oh, damn.
So we were like pretty much being evicted by the
By
city of Denver.
Huh.
So our landlord was super pissed about that, and we were pissed too because we got 72 hours to get out.
Yeah.
And that was pretty rough. So then we got drugged through the justice system here, for growing weed, and they hit us for some other shit too, because we had a rosin press, so they said we were manufacturing, and a couple hits of acid, and suddenly you got a possession of LSD, and
right.
well, just a bunch of bullshit. And the important thing was we lawyered up good. I got a really good lawyer, and she had me go through certain steps that helped me basically prove that I wasn't some huge drug dealer or a gangster or anything. I sent pictures of hunting with those guns that were confiscated. I had receipts from my firearms, reference letters from professionals, all kinds of different things that we were able to basically submit to the DA to show that I was a normal tax-paying citizen who was just gardening and ended up having too many plants.
Not the gun-toting pot farmer that's got narco ties that they were hoping for.
Yeah, so we were able to prove that, and then what I got was like 18 months of probation.
Okay.
And the funny part about that is, in like orientation for probation, they're like, well, you're all on probation, most of you for drug offenses. You're going to be drug tested throughout your probation. And they said, does anyone here have a med card? And there were just a couple of us, and I was one of them. They're like, all right, well, come show us your med card. We're going to make copies of it. You're the only ones who can basically piss dirty and have cannabis. So I was being drugged through the justice system for cannabis while being able to use cannabis. It was so stupid.
Things
but
that make no sense.
But yeah, so like I pled down from a couple of bullshit felonies to a misdemeanor possession of a controlled substance. It was like some pyrovalium or some bath salt bullshit, some kind of prescription pill. I don't know. So it was weird how they do things in the justice system. So that's what I pled guilty to. Got 18 months probation, and it was super unsupervised. They didn't bother me hardly at all. And once it was all over, paid some fees, got everything dismissed, and then I got everything expunged. So it's pretty much disappeared.
Well, now.
But it cost time, it cost money. I had to stop growing for a while, so it was a big headache. But at the end of the day, it didn't deter me from doing what I love to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a resilience there for sure.
Yeah.
So given all that you've experienced, like if you were to give advice to people, to fellow growers, what would that advice be? Whether that's whatever that might be for you, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
If you're going to do things kind of on a bigger scale, obviously be nice and quiet. If you're doing things on a small scale, just have fun, be creative, do your research, and spend your time with the plants. No. The more time you spend with them, I think the more benefit you're going to get in the end.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think those benefits, like we talked about, are far-reaching. For your own sanity and just for all the things.
I mean, for me, growing is not only my creative outlet, but it's kind of therapy. I'm at peace when I'm in the garden. I can kind of check out and not deal with the rest of my stuff, other stresses in life, and I'm just me and my plants, maybe some music on, whatever. And for me, that's my hour or two of therapy every day, and it kind of like settles me down from everything else.
Yeah, I think that's an epic thing to have, especially given everything hardworking adults have to deal with these days. So
yeah, I think it's good to have a creative outlet, and I think it's important to me the way it pays off in bringing satisfaction to other people.
Yeah,
it helps. I share my cannabis with a lot of people that are close to me. And it means a lot to me when they're like, dude, I still have never known anyone who grows weed as good as you. Or I'm always looking forward to the next time I can try some of your bud, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's cool to hear. And it's cool to share. Just again, like sharing tomatoes or sharing any other fruits of your garden. You're like, oh man, I'd love
Yeah.
to try the homegrown.
Yeah. I make 30 or 40 jars of pickles every summer, and I've got some friends that are obsessed with them, and I love to share my pickles.
There you go.
But
For those who have enjoyed this conversation, who were introduced to you and your thought process behind the plant, where can they find you? Where can they support you? Where do you want to plug?
mostly just Instagram. That's the only thing I use. So Cyclone Gardens on Instagram. You can find me. I got a private account, but hit me up. I'll accept you. And it's you'll see the little pictures, the little pot leaf coming out of a little cyclone, little tornado.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for the time, dude. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing all your stories and
Yeah,
your
appreciate your
perspective.
consideration.
Absolutely. We will catch up here again soon.
Sounds good, man.
That's it for now, and that's it for season 2. Thank you for tuning in, learning from these growers, breeders, hash makers, and friends of mine. I hope that you've found value in this newest season, and I hope to bring you more episodes here soon. Enjoy the episodes that are out there. Go back, listen to ones you've missed, leave a review if you feel so inclined. And as always, I'm your host, Ben Owens, and we'll see you next time.